Hey, 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 Gabfocus. Tommy here. Welcome to another fantabulous episode of Gabfocus. Melissa, how are things in your world?
Good. So far, we're mostly dry from this crazy hurricane that's coming through, but I think it has its sights set on Chattanooga, so we will see
Yeah, I
how.
think we're right in the middle of it. Well, not,
Hmm.
yeah, it looks
Yeah,
pretty rough. But all of our friends on the coast in Florida, Texas, Louisiana, hopefully y'all stay safe down there.
yeah.
I've been seeing some crazy pictures online, and during lobby talk, someone even said the Waffle House in their area just closed. So we know things are getting pretty serious if that's the case. But we've got a really good episode for y'all today. It's all about customer service. It's all about how to go above and beyond. It's all about problem solving. It's all about taking care of your customers. In lobby talk, we had the question of the week, which was, or lobby talk question of the week, which was, tell us a time that you went above and beyond for your customers. And we had some really good answers, which makes me super jived. We got a really good crew here with as far as our attendees go. But yeah, welcome to this episode of Gap Focus, the one and only Lee Creech, North Shore Pellissippi Storage, the president of the TNSSA, and 15 years in the self storage business. They just celebrated their 15th anniversary yesterday. Lee, welcome to the Gap Focus stage.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming, man. So tell us why you're equipped to teach us about customer service.
Well, I think everybody pretty much knows how to provide good customer service anyway. It's just bringing things back forward in your mind that you may be pushed aside for whatever reason. Um, Once upon a time, before I joined the self-storage industry, I worked in hotels. And even though I was mostly a revenue manager, every once in a while, we would lose a guest services manager, and I would pull double duty, and I would have to be the guest services manager and the revenue manager,
Oh, yeah.
and have to
Wow.
train people how to take care of the customer in front of them, how to take reservations, how to deal with crazy issues I never have in storage, never want to revisit again. Like, there's poop on my shower curtain.
Yikes.
Um,
I
Girl,
feel
that's
like a
crazy.
hotel.
I do
Yeah,
not have that problem anymore. Uh,
I feel like a hotel customer service is like level 10. And
Oh,
then
gotta be
like
level
self
10.
storage is way down here. So simple.
God,
Oh my
gotta be
goodness.
level 10.
yeah, I mean, I hardly ever have poop related emergencies anymore. So,
That's
um,
good.
um,
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you can bring that experience to our audience today. No, I'm scrolling through the list of attendees here, and we've got quite a few people in the audience. And I'm seeing some people who I know deliver some incredible customer service, right? I mean, of course, we've got Phil O'Hara in the crowd. We got people like Jim Ross. We've got several vendors in the crowd too, from like the team from XPS is representing.
Yeah.
Got some amazing managers in this audience. CJ's in the house. I'm seeing some people who I know live and breathe this stuff. So this is going to be a really fun episode, and this is something that's near and dear, I think, to both Melissa and myself, and to Lee as well. So welcome. Of course, Gap Focus brought to you by our teams at Storage Pug and Lighthouse Storage Solutions. And if you are brand new to Gap Focus, we'll go for about an hour. Melissa and I will take turns asking all the questions. Lee will answer these questions with his expert authority in customer service and poop cleaning. And you should submit your own questions in the live Q&A button. And if you have questions, of course, you can have a great, and the comment section is already blowing up from today's, just from the lobby talk. But if you want to make sure that your question gets seen by Melissa and myself, put it in the Q&A. So today's agenda looks like this: why customer service and experience matters. We're going to talk about customer service tips and tricks, and then we're going to talk about turning great service into more rentals. All right, without further ado, Melissa, let's kick us off.
All right, let's do it. So first, Lee, why does customer service matter at all?
Um, well, it's funny because I sit through presentations online, in person, whatever, and occasionally a presenter will be saying something and it just is rubbing me the wrong way. And then recently this happened, and in the Q&A, they said something that made me feel better about the whole thing. Customer service matters, but it's a yin and a yang. You can't let your customers take advantage of you in the name of providing good service. There's this tension back and forth, and um, good customer service, I hope, I'm taking a gamble on it, is going to turn into more rentals, more stable rentals, rentals that have been already vetted by the staff here. So we know that these are going to be people that pay steady and on time and so forth. Um, but there is also that tension that every once in a while, you're just not going to make everybody happy.
I love that. There truly does have to be a back and forth. You have to train your tenants and to expect the service that you're going to provide. So let's talk about, and we kind of touched on this a little bit in lobby talk. How can the customer service set you apart from your competition specifically?
And the truly honest answer is I don't know. I don't know how it's going to set us apart. I'm taking a gamble that it will. I
Mm.
mean, I look at my marketing numbers. I look at why people say they choose us. I look at all those things. And what I found, and this is my site, not anybody else's, you've got to look at your own numbers, but I found that close to half of the clients I have in house now are either previous clients that have come back, they're clients that have decided to add an additional unit or more to what they originally purchased, or they are people that have been referred by a
Mhm.
client.
That's
That's
strong.
a huge number. I
So
Mhm.
mean,
huge.
and I think to generate that word of mouth number, it takes more than just asking for it. You do have to ask for it, but um, you have to provide some sort of service for them, because the 10-foot by 10-foot cube of air is the same everywhere. Mine's air conditioned. Some people don't care about that. Some people do. But it's the connection between the people. People sell the units. People service the units. People pack their stuff in the units. I think that connection between the people is at least as important as the cube of air.
So really your focus in all of this is the relationships that you have with your customers. I
Yeah.
love it. Love it. And in our lobby talk, if you guys missed it, there was conversation about that. I think it was Nicole that had the example of, one good deed and now I've got a friend. Like they're actually has established a friendship with a client. So I love the focus on the people side of it more than just I need to get this sale or I need to get that Google review. It's or that referral. It's I'm going to earn all of that because I sought you first as a person and had that intentionality between how I'm going to treat you and how you can expect to be treated, and all of those other things will follow.
And it's not true for everybody, but we do deal with customers who are in some sort of crisis sometimes. We're dealing
Mm.
with customers that have had some sort of traumatic event at their home and need to get
Right.
stuff out so they can fix their home. We're dealing with people who are going through separation and divorce and death in the family and all these things. And if we've ever sat across the desk from a customer trying to get them to sign the lease, how many times have you had to listen to the story and feel empathy and sympathy with the story before you can actually get them focused on signing?
Yeah, you got to get them to that point. Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
That's so awesome. No, one thing I love that you said there, Lee, was that the truth is you do it not necessarily because you know it will result in more customers later. You're doing it because it's just the right thing to do for the
Right.
person in front of you. It's about solving the problems and taking care of the person that's in front of you. That's special, man. So talk to us about the difference between good service and exceptional service. And when when is it appropriate to just be good enough, and when is it important to go above and beyond?
I'm not sure there's a difference between good and excellent. I mean, really, in today's world, um, when you walk into a certain global fast food chain and there's no one behind the counter because they insist that you order off of a kiosk, and you it's almost impossible to get them to make whatever it is for your child without the pickle, because your child absolutely will not eat anything a pickle has touched. And um, and so, I think good customer service, we unfortunately have been trained that good customer service is exceptional customer service.
Mm.
Listening to what your clients need, even when you can't 100% fulfill what they need. Listening to that is exceptional customer service. And perhaps that's a sad commentary of where we're at, but that's kind of where we're at.
Well, there was a comment in the during lobby talk, I think Megan said it was like sometimes she just plays the role of counselor, and the act of listening to the customer's issues is enough because they just want to vent or just want to get things off of their chest. And maybe the average experience or the average customer service experience, they don't get to just talk about what they're going through. And sometimes playing the shoulder to cry on, or just the helpful ear, right? Is actually, that is exceptional or excellent service.
And I will say, everybody has a bad day. I have bad days. Everybody has a bad day. Maybe the difference between good and exceptional customer service is on the exceptional days, I'm having a good day, but I still want to have good customer service when I'm having a bad day.
Well, I think there's a difference between delivering a product and delivering customer service. And you are either delivering customer service or you're not. If you're not delivering, you might be providing a product and doing a transactional, you're renting this unit, I'm renting it to you. But I think you're rightly, there's not really, you either do it or you don't. And good customer service is good customer service. There's not really an in between. If you're not meeting that mark, you're just providing a product at the end of the day. So that's awesome. Okay, so this is a very, I guess everyone's going to evaluate how well they are doing in their customer service job, depending on what they think customer service should look like. So how can you tell if you're doing a good job or not? How can you audit your customer service to be sure that you're actually delivering true service?
I think you audit it the same way you audit your telephone calls, the same way you audit your reservations or your move-in processes or whatever. Because honestly, we don't really get reservations anymore. We get people that move in. I mean, you audit it kind of the same way. And part of it is intangible. I mean, are you trying to make a connection with the person? Um, do you? And this is not an audit procedure, but there have been times when I've been on the phone, one call after another, and it gets frustrating after a while. And you hang up the phone with the last person, and the phone's already ringing again, and you take a deep breath, and then you put a smile on your face before you answer the next call. Because something as simple as speaking to someone with a smile on your face will affect the tone of voice and everything else. And we communicate so much through those intangibles, not the words that are said, but the tone of voice and the expression on your face and all those other things. And um, so I think you have to include that customer service component in the audit procedures you already have.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
That's awesome.
You got the next question, Tommy? I don't even know where we're
Yeah.
at.
No,
There we go.
yeah. So now that we know, why customer service matters, and I mean, I think really far and away we're preaching to the choir in this group, man. I think it's so special. I mean, I was just scrolling through the comment section. Sharon says she has 750 customers, and 150 of those moved to her facility from a previous storage facility. Like that is special. So for the audience members in here who maybe own a facility and are questioning the importance of a manager. I mean, Sharon is I mean, that's it right there. That's so special. So shout out Sharon. So we're gonna move to the next section, which is customer service tips and tricks. So Lee, what customer service mistakes do you see or hear about the most when it comes to self-storage?
I think, and not just self-storage in general, the mistakes that most often I see is first, you take it personally. You don't know what's going on with the person across the desk from you or the person you're walking beside to show them the unit or whatever. They have given you a glimpse. They say, I need a unit because, but you really don't know what's going on. You really don't know what kind of stress they're under you. And sometimes they're just not the easiest person to deal with, and you're taking it personally, and it's hard not to. But it's not about you. They've got stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe all they want to know is the price because that's what they're fixated on. And you're taking it personally, but it's not about you personally. I mean, and sometimes you have to get past that. You have to just say, okay, well, I know you want to know about the price, but we need to make sure what you want is going to fit.
Yeah.
We need to meet other needs you have besides price, and price may be a super important one because we don't know what's going on with them. But so taking things personally is I think probably one of the first things. And the other thing I would say is when you are putting the ball back in their court, well, you should do this. No, you give them the opportunity. You try to lead them to where you think they need to go, but you can't just say, "Well, you're making a mistake." Well, that's their prerogative. Um, I shared a story recently on social media. It's not about storage, but I'm working in the yard. Somebody drives up and wants to inspect my roof, and they give me a car, and they're going to do this, and I just said thank you, no, because honestly, at the time, all I cared about was getting the leaves raked. That was it. And they said, okay, but you're getting water under your roof. So they put it back on me. And I wanted to say, as the person that does customer service training, it's like, you know, what you should say is, okay, please keep my card. And when it's a better time, call me. I'd love to talk to you about your roof.
Yeah.
and and you know, we all want to make the sale. We maybe our bonuses are on how many sales we make and everything, but sometimes you just have to say, okay, this is not the best time. Instead of putting it back on you, you say, okay, well, when it's a better time, or when you decide how much space you need or whatever, come see me. I'll be happy to help you however I can.
Mm-hmm. So let's dive a little bit deeper into some actual specific tips for the journey that we're taking the customer on, their whole experience. So let's break this down. And let's try to get some specific examples of each of these things. So let's start first with the lead follow-up, because I think what you just mentioned is a good a good segue into that. How do you go about delivering good service when you're just trying to follow up on a lead? Yes, you want the sale. Yes, you need that bonus. Yes, for all those reasons, you need to get this rental. But how do you turn that into a good customer experience for the tenant, potential tenant?
You know, with the with any sort of lead, um, and so many of our leads are referrals. You know, hi, wanted to check back in with you. I know you were here yesterday or the day before or whatever. Uh, um, have you made any decisions about how much space you need? Is there something more I can tell you, show you? Um, Sometimes if it's a telephone lead, they haven't been to your site yet. And um, and so you always extend an invitation. Let come visit us at your convenience. We want to show you what we've got. We want to show you some options, so forth. Um, and yeah, we do. We want to make the sale, but um, once again, I'm not finding that we're making that many reservations anymore where we or things like that where we have to follow up on. I think a lot of our lead contacts are actually first contacts. And you know, if it's not about the hard sell, it's about making the introduction and making it a friendly introduction. Hi, my name is Lee. I'm calling from North Shore Pellissippi Storage. Your friend so and so said that you might be needing storage in the next couple of weeks. We'd love to invite you to come down and take a look and let us show you some of the options we have. And it's just that introduction, and it's
Mm.
not high pressure. It's, you know, yes, I want to make the sale. But one of the things about providing good customer service is that you have to be knowledgeable about your product. You have to know, okay, if you're moving a huge house, it's not all going to fit into a 10 by 10. The 10 by 10 may be the attractive price, but that's not as big a space as you think it is. And so we need to be knowledgeable about the product, and we need to be personable. Um, it, you know, we don't see as many people coming through the door in self storage as you do in retail or restaurants or things like that. But those people, you have to want to be there with them. You have to want to talk to them. You have to want to make that connection with them, because that's what they want to do. They want to do business with people, a nameless, faceless corporate entity may be able to compete with you on price. They may be able to undercut you on price. And there will be people that are going to be swayed by that. But the clients you really want to make a connection with you. I've never had a client that was consistently trying to take advantage of me and have their stuff sent to auction because they just absolutely will not pay if they know me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't mean sometimes those people don't get behind and you have to work with them and so forth. But it's people that don't know you that leave their stuff.
I love
People
that.
that
Yeah.
know you want to make it work for you too.
Right. Right.
So beyond the lead follow-up process, let's talk about the rental process, right? Whether the rental's happening on the phone, on your website, they're in person with you. What are some customer service tips to help improve the rental process?
You know, I don't know that I have any tips per se. Once again, if you like talking to people, if you are knowledgeable about your product, if you can answer the questions and sort of take their lead on how they want to proceed. Some people want to just let's do it as fast as we can, and some people want to tell you their life story, and you kind of have to be willing to go along with whichever way they want to lead. Uh, and and that's kind of how it goes. Uh, I mean, there are things you can do, especially when they're on site, that are going the extra mile when you're renting a unit. You can obviously take them to the unit. This is the unit, and you can point out features. One of the features that we people like about us is that we have a loading dock. And on a rainy day like today, it's dry. That's a great selling point. You can show that to people, and you can show them how the lock works, and you can show them how the codes work, and let's you know, and if they're on the phone, I mean, once again, you can take them through that and you can follow their lead. Somebody in the chat is saying identifying their needs. That's the big thing to providing customer service is you're filling their needs. And it takes a little time and a little practice and a little skill to figure out how to draw that out of somebody in conversation and make those personal connections. But that's really what it's about. It's I can't tell you how many times I've told people, okay, well, I think what you have will fit in this size unit. Now, if they're insistent that they want the bigger one because they want to be safe, I'm going to sell them the bigger one. And if they're insistent that they're going to take the smaller one when it's not enough, I'm going to sign the lease on the smaller. But I'm always going to give them the options. Now, listen, if you start moving in, you realize that this unit is too small, come see me in the office and we'll get you in a better size before you have to move everything twice. Same thing with a bigger unit. If you feel like when you start putting this in that this is too big, come to the office and see me and we'll get you in a different size before you have to move everything twice.
Encouraging that communication. Yeah.
You are. And I mean, sometimes you just know that that's not going to fit. But
yeah.
But once again, you're not putting it back on them. Well, that's not going to fit.
Right. Right.
Okay.
You're just offering to be there and offering preemptively to fix the problem when it does come up. So Lisa had a question in the Q&A that I feel like goes kind of along with this rental process. And I think it's something that a lot of operators kind of dealing with today. and says, how do you handle a potential customer telling you that the facility down the street is cheaper when you know that they are trying to buy the market and they're going to increase rent 3 to 4 times in the coming year? They don't practice that type of market buying, and they're trying to be honest and upfront with their customers. But how do you do that without bashing the competition and making yourself look bad? And I think that is a struggle that a lot of us are having right now, Lisa. So good question. Lee, are you having to deal with this at all?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The market I work in has been flooded by one of the REITs in particular who,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
uh, you know,
Similar color doors as yours.
Yeah.
um, only a few of my doors, because my hallways are color coded. There's not all one color. That gets people lost. And
I love that. I love that.
the thing we have done, and once again, time will tell how successful it is. We're operating at an advantage because we are a stabilized facility. We're not trying to lease up in this environment. Um, but the thing we're doing is we offer a 12-month rate guarantee.
Yeah.
And we do, to guarantee this, it's not just automatic, but it pretty much is. You have to have proof of insurance, preferably because you bought it through us.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be on auto pay.
I like that.
Those
That's
are the
so
two
cool.
things.
Yeah.
And
I'll
Now,
put a link to your page on that, Lee, where everyone can see your 12-month guarantee. I think you call it the neighbor's promise, which I think
that's
is
right.
very cool.
and
It's
that's a
awesome.
perfect example of that give and take and that tension of, I'm going to provide really great service, but I'm going to need you to do this. And both sides can meet their obligations, and that results in a really great experience for everybody. A great experience for
Mhm.
you and a great experience for the customer. And I think that's a perfect picture of that, Lee. And Lisa, I think to answer your question, you can talk about what the other people do in regards to how you do things. And it is, we offer a 12-month guarantee. You may not find that at the competition. That would be worth checking if you want to go back and double check with them, see if they have a 12-month guarantee, because they're going to tell you no. But this is how we do it, and this is why we do it. And I think that way you're constantly turning that focus back onto the good things you do instead of the bad thing that your competition does. And I think we see this is an election year, right? So every single ad that is out there, every political ad right now is telling you how bad their opponent is. Instead of focusing on, this is the good that I plan to do, it's, let me tell you how crappy that person is. And that's what every ad's about. And we all hate it. So we don't want to fall into that trap. So instead of bashing them, talk about the good you are doing and how you are solving that problem for them, if that makes sense.
Spot on. No, it totally
and
makes sense.
and I don't say you bash the competition, but when you point out your advantages to the competition. And when Tommy shared the link, he called it neighbor's promise, and that's what it is, because we're not immune. We in the past were a little bit different, but we're not immune. The vast majority of our clients come within that 3 to 5 mile radius. And so we see them. We see them when we go to the grocery store. We see them when we go um, across the street to the Chick-fil-A. We see them in all sorts of places. I see them at University of Tennessee basketball games. And I mean, so, if I'm going to see these people, I'm going to treat them right. And I tell them, this is my promise, my guarantee is that I'm going to do this. This big company from somewhere else, I don't know what they're going to promise you. Now, if you work for a company that's based somewhere else, or you're managed by a company that's based somewhere else, maybe you can't say that in quite the same way. But the fact of the matter is, you don't travel 50 miles to work at your facility.
Yeah.
You're also dealing with people in your 3 to 5 mile radius. And, you know, treat them like you want to be treated and tell them, listen, this is the way I want to be treated. I don't want to have my rent raised 4 times in a year.
Right. Right. And so that kind of takes us to the next stage. We've talked about lead follow-up, we've talked about the rental process and kind of that move in. So their entire stay matters. Their entire experience from very beginning to the day they move out, and hopefully 6 months from down the road when they're still giving, referrals to their friends. So how do you communicate with them during their stay to make sure that everything's still good and that you're aware of all the issues and you're handling all the problems? How do you communicate with them?
Not as well as I'd like to. Um, I mean, just to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
not as well as I'd like to. I
Okay.
mean, I have some clients that I see all the time, because they're not the ones that put their stuff in, leave it for 6 months, and then come back to get it out. And so there are those. You know, we've talked about doing an email newsletter. I know there are some people I respect very much in the industry who do email newsletters. And the thing we keep coming back and forth on an email newsletter is, oh my gosh, do people even look at their email anymore? Because
Yeah.
honestly, we're having better response to text than we are to email. But even in text, I can't tell you. I mean, I bought a pair of sandals from Chaco's and I get text every day from Chaco's. It's like, how many feet do you think I have? So, um, so I really don't have a good answer to that. I mean, for the people that come in every day, the people that I'm sending messages to for because I see them often, it's a lot easier than it is for the person that has put their stuff in. They're going to come back in 6 months or a year, and they want to be there and they want to be in good shape. And for them, the good customer service is I'm friendly when you come in, I'm friendly when you leave, uh, and your stuff that stays cozy and dry, and bug free in the interim.
I love it. And Jessica actually said the same thing in the chat. She said, I stop and speak to all of my tenants when I'm out on the property. And if they come into the office, make every effort to like, you are here and all you're going to get all my focus right now. And I think that is good. A lot of our tenants, they put their stuff in and we never see them again until the day they move out. And that's okay. Um, I'm not really a big fan of the, like you said, Lee, the monthly newsletter or quarterly newsletter, because I'm one of those that I hit delete. I won't even read the subject line. It's just getting deleted. I lose half my invoices that way. So I'm just there's just too much in we're cluttered anyway. But I've known some that will send out birthday cards and Christmas cards and want to keep up that communication. I'm more of the when we need to communicate, it's going to be positive. It's going to be friendly. I'll use an opportunity like a rate increase. I'm going to use that as an opportunity to tell you what we've done in the past year to make your
Hmm.
experience great and how we are
Right.
maintaining good customer service, reminding them of all the good things that we've done. And more of that communication really is on social media. You're posting the pictures of your upgrades, you're posting the pictures of cleaning day and that sort of thing. So I think those communications, I don't think we need to overcomplicate it. We just need to make them very quality when we do any of those pieces.
I love that.
High quality. Yeah.
Yes. Leanne says she walks around with bottled water on busy days, make an effort to say hello to them while walking the properties. Of course, the ones that are chatting and those who aren't. So yeah, I think making every interaction memorable and exceptional. It doesn't mean that you have to be always sending text messages like chocolates.
Mhm. Right.
And
So,
I love that
some great
idea
advice. Yeah.
of walking around with the bottled water with you. I'm going to steal that because I mean,
Shout out
you know,
Leanne.
we uh, we we recently took a space that was being underutilized and made a quote coffee lounge out of it, and we've got all the different coffee you can have and the fridge full of bottled water and all that. But there's something personal about I'm doing my walkthrough and I meet you and it's like, oh, here, do you need a bottle of water? You know,
Love it.
that's great.
That's
I
awesome.
love that.
Yeah. Shout out Leanne. So now talk to us about the move out process, Lee. What are customer service tips that what are things that y'all do at MP Storage to help the customer, assist the customer during the move out process, kind of like the end of their life cycle with you all?
Funny thing is, I get the feeling from some customers, not all of them, but from some customers, that they almost don't want to tell me that they're moving out because they're kind of afraid that I'm going to try to convince them to stay longer. Or and I have said this is look, listen, if you only need to move part of your stuff, let's talk about a smaller unit in the interim or so forth. And I've done that. But I think the biggest thing is when they tell me they're going to move out. Well, thank you so much for choosing us. Ever how many months ago it was. I mean, thank you so much for choosing us. I hope you've had a great stay. I've got you set down for this date to move out. If you need some extra time, let me know. Um, whatever it takes, just to let them know that's going to be okay. That we're glad you've been here. Um, every once in a while, we do first of the month billing, just because rent traditionally is a first of the month expense and people are used to it. So when somebody says, I'm moving out on the 5th, okay. But if you can talk to your movers and get things out on the 30th or the 31st, you're going to save October's rent.
That's awesome.
Um,
I love that
I
you do
just
that.
want,
That's
you know,
yeah.
I want to remind you, first off, that on the 1st, I'm hitting that card.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to say that
Mm-hmm.
because that's kind of antagonistic. So I'm not going to say that, but I'm just going to remind you, listen, if you can work it out with your movers, and a lot of times they say, oh, I can't because we're not closing on the house until then or whatever. And and when they say that, well, we're not closing on the house to the 5th, so the movers are going to be there this afternoon or whatever. Okay. Well, now, since you have the unit for the whole month, don't worry if you can't get it all out on the 5th because you've just
Mm.
closed. You're going to have a million things to do. Honestly, if you can get the bed set up on the first night, that's a win. So you don't have to get everything out that day. You have the whole month. They
Right.
never take me up on it.
Mm-hmm.
Never. I
But
mean,
you've
they've
given
hired.
them the offer and they feel as if they've gotten something for their month rent that they're paying you is that extra flexibility. You've turned it into a positive.
Exactly. And I mean, um, you know, sometimes there are things I can't help them with. You know,
Hmm.
I want to make a reservation for the loading dock. It's like, well, I'm sorry. It's first come, first served because the other person moving out that day,
Yeah.
they have the right to use it too. Um, or what, sometimes there are just things you can't do. But when they tell you that they're moving out, let them know that it's been a positive for you, that you
Mm-hmm.
appreciate them having been there. And we all have some clients that, we're saying that with a smile on our face, and secretly on the inside, we're going, oh, thank goodness. Um, but take
Not
that
all
joy
customers are
and turn
good.
it into something positive for the client.
Yeah.
And, um, And I think that's probably one of the best things to do. And once again, I let them know that, listen, you have options. If you need more time, yeah, we are going to charge you for the next month. But if you need more time, let us know. If you need less space because you decide that some of that sporting equipment is just not going to live in your new house,
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
we can work with you on that.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about some of those more difficult conversations. You've kind of already led into that a little bit. Let's talk about some specifics on how you would handle these customer scenarios. So you've got the customer that's late making their payment. Um, maybe they're habitually late. How do you frame that conversation to where they still walk away having received good customer service, but you've also walked away getting your money, or have a clear path to that?
So once again, you're not going to have 100% wins. So there was someone who works with me who was having a conversation with the client. The client was getting more and more agitated, and finally asked, "Can they speak to me?" Okay, fine. Um, and the very first thing out of their mouth is, "I am going to pay you." I said, "Well, that's great." That's the, and I shouldn't have said this, but it slipped out of my mouth. That's the most important thing.
That's the purpose of this phone call today.
Right? I mean, that's great. That's the most important thing. Um, and uh, and so then they proceeded to tell me all their complaints with the previous conversation and everything. And I finally, and this is one of those things I said before, that you don't put the ball in the other person's court, but I did that. I put the ball in their court. And I finally asked them, I said, "What can I do today to make it right for you?" And turns out what I could do was listen.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
What
that's
I could do
cool.
was listen. And
Yeah.
sometimes, uh, and in the hotel business, we used to call it active listening. You are actively listening to what they say to you. Sometimes you repeat it back to them. Now, just to make sure I understand, I'm repeating this back to you to make sure I've understood all of the things. I've really heard you.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I can do. I had a client out of state. I did not want to sell her stuff,
Mm,
and she was going through a difficult time. And we talked every month, and we came up. Well, it's a little too it's a little too formal to say we came up with a plan. but, but every month she knew she had to send me something. So as long as you send me something, we'll see you through, but it's going to be expensive because there are going to be fees and there are going to be things. Um, we just don't have the ability to say we're not going to do any of this. And some of it we did. I mean, some of it we just wrote off fees, not rent. Um, but she was talking to us. I've got somebody now, they refuse to call me back. And it's like, well, you're headed to auction. I mean, there's only so much I can do for you.
Yeah.
Um,
mhm.
you know, but and and I know for some people, especially big corporate stores and even people that are operating 4 or 5 stores, it gets hard to do that. Um, but we've had we've had somebody else that has been a slow pay, um, and and it's like, okay, well, you have to send me something, and we're going to get you through. I see somebody in the chat says I'm training them to give me partial payments. Interesting thing is, I get paid by those people because they call me and they talk to me, and we work something out, and we get them out, and the person that it's like, listen, let's find a way to get you out. You
Not through auction. There,
not
you're just trying to get
Yeah,
them to pay up enough so they can move out. Yeah, I think there's a fine line. I do
sure.
I see what they're saying about possibly training for partial payments, but at the same time, you're working with specific customers. You're not just opening that floodgate for any customer to pay you $20 a month. That's not your goal. You have
No.
a specific customer that you have obviously a good communication with, and you have laid this out, and like you said, you've made a plan. Okay, this is how we're going to fix this problem for you, but again, I'm going to do this, but you have to do this in return. And I think that's not necessarily that's not necessarily a bad thing. What I see on the flip side are owners that say, I'll when they have that same conversation with every single person on their rent roll, and they're like, well, what can you pay me today? No, pay the rent. The rent is due. You're talking about an exception in how you are offering good customer service to a particular tenant who has in turn said, I will do this, and let, like, meet me halfway kind of thing, and you've agreed to do that. So I'm just trying to draw the distinction there between what's going on in
Hmm.
the chat
And
or
I think that's a very important distinction. Once again, there's this yin and yang relationship there. And when anybody calls me to talk about whether they're having trouble doing this or that or whatever, the property management system I use allows me to make notes. And when you make notes, for goodness sakes, don't make judgments. Just
mm-hmm,
say what happened.
mm-hmm.
Called today and said, I will make a $100 payment on Friday. So Friday, if you don't come in Monday, you're going to get a call. Hey,
Yeah.
I missed you on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And um, and yeah, if they're not doing what they say they're going to do, well then yeah, the lease and the lien law are going to be how I'm going to proceed. But I'm really not looking to have auctions. Auctions are bad for business. I never recoup anything out of an auction. Um, so I want to avoid that. Um,
Hmm.
Well, and I see in the chats that a lot of conversation that I really do like too, of, we have, Angelica said, we have 75% pay to vacate, and we that is their version of, we'll work with you, pay
Yep.
75%, you can go. We don't have to do an auction. And so I think everybody has their, what they are willing to do as the owner, as the operator of, this is the concession I'm willing to make. And it
Hmm.
sounds like, Lee, you're banking on, if I work with this particular customer to a certain degree, you're probably going to collect 75% as well, and you're working probably toward the same goal. It just looks a little bit different, but still, this is very customer specific. It's not just a blanket, anyone that's running late, you're going to call and say, hey, pay me 75% and you can just move out. Yeah, that's not the end goal either. I don't think
no.
so. um we all have our preferences. It's just like the move-in discounts. Some say dollar off is the way to go on that first month, and others say no, you can't get a discount till second or third month. So
Hmm.
everybody has their
Hmm.
preference, but at the end, it all works the same. It just looks a little bit different. But so there's so many different ways we could go with the payment side. Let's talk about some of the questions that have come in the Q&A on some of the other problems that customers have. Like, for instance, Charity says, how do you deal with the outdoor non-climate tenant who complains about the bugs in their unit as they're moving out? What happens, and it's just part of self-storage, but how do you respond to that without it sounding rude, of like, well, this is just what storage is? So what's a good response to a complaint or a comment like that from a tenant?
I think sometimes, and please forgive me, I don't have outdoor non-climate units. But I mean, sometimes it comes back to that question: what can I do to make it right for you?
I like it.
Yeah.
You don't want to
Mhm.
say that. You don't want to lead with that. But I mean, let's talk and ask a few questions. And it's like, what are you expecting?
Mhm.
And what can I offer you? Because it may be that this outdoor non-climate space fits your budget, but it's not going to meet your expectations. But I have this space over here with an indoor entry, interior entry, and climate control. And it's going to be a lot easier to control the bugs because we're going to treat the perimeter of the building. And it's a lot harder to do that when you have this big seam with your door and the outdoors.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's a
And
Yeah.
really good point. Yeah. Yeah. So that really goes back to setting those accurate expectations at the time of move in and at the time of rental, and even, making it known, making it very clear we are treating for pests and rodents between every tenant that comes in here. We try to do our best to stay ahead of an issue. That
Mhm.
already signals to the tenant, okay, they're trying, one, and two, this is a potential problem. And I need to go ahead and be aware that this is a potential problem. So, having the more conversations you have in the beginning of the tenant life cycle, the fewer you're going to have during it, because they're going to understand, oh, this is just the way this is. This is what I
Mhm.
can expect, and it's going to help their entire process go better. If you wait until the customer comes to you with a bug problem, then you are having to try to go back and say, oh, this is actually just really common in self storage. Hate that. You probably should have chosen a climate control unit. Well, thanks for telling me now. You could have told me that 6 months ago when I was moving in, telling you that, these were all the important things that I was storing. You didn't mention bugs. So I love how your conversation is very letting the customer know what to expect. And like you said, maybe your expectations were here, but your price point was here. And
Mhm.
that's a good conversation to have with a tenant that says, I'm moving all my prized possessions. Everything I own is going into this unit, but I really think I have to choose the cheapest option. Let them know what they're choosing. Let them know what they are actually sacrificing in that price,
That's
and
awesome.
make sure they really want to do that.
well, and
Yep.
I think once again, we talk about this tension between all the things that we're doing, the customer service and the revenue management and all these other things. I think that one of the things you have to remember is, one, you are not going to have 100% success rate. You are going to have the tenant that you are not going to be able to please.
Right.
And you're calm, you've listened to them, you've talked about their objections and what maybe we can do about that. Well, we can't really spray your unit while you're in there, but we can do this. And if it still hasn't satisfied them, and this was something I actually heard from an HR person about when you've made the wrong hire, but it also applies to that tenant that you're just never going to satisfy. Sometimes you have to let them free to their destiny. And that may mean that you just know this is not a 5-star Google review and I'm not going to ask you to move out.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
It happens.
Yeah. So Jessica says something in her responses. It sounds like she's dealt with a similar situation. Tenant came out, literally said the same thing. I went out and cleaned around her items and swept down the walls and door. She was so happy, right? So I think sometimes it's just our ability to actively listen and figure out, okay, what's the one quick thing that I can do to just make this person happy in this very moment, right? It reminds me of this term I learned recently called extemporize. It's our ability to improvise, right? Improvise in a way that is responsive to a situation, right? And I think a lot of customer service these days is so robotic, right? And I think, Melissa, you said this in lobby talk. I think a lot of big operators, that manager can't drive 50 miles to deliver keys to a tenant or drive to the airport to drop off an ID because they're so rigid in what they're allowed to do. So the fact that Jessica's like, yo, let me just sweep out your unit. Is that cool with you? That's enough. That made that tenant so happy because Jessica was able to improvise and say, hey, let me just take care of that for you right now. How's that sound? Right. And so I think our abilities as small, as independent operators to extemporize, I think makes such a big difference to tenants that's a skill that we maybe don't lean on as heavy. And I think we may even take for granted or forget that, yeah, if I walk into a national chain or whether it's a restaurant, hotel, or even self-storage, that the manager or the person who's providing service on the other side of that desk, they are so bounded by the rules that they have to follow, where we can say, you know what, yeah, don't worry, man, I'll drive 50 miles to see you, right? Like we can do these things that go above and beyond. And so I think our ability to improvise and provide excellent service in the time of need is so special. And I think that's definitely something that sets an independent operator apart from one of the larger chains.
And a lot of times it's not I'm sorry.
I just wanted to add because I'm seeing what's going on in the chat as well. I think that a couple of people are actually handling this particular example better than I am. I, for the most part, talk to my clients. My clients come into an office and they talk to me, and we go back and forth and talk a lot. But actually going out to the unit with them to sweep and saying, oh, let me get some spray and I'll go out there with you right now and let's put down some
Leanne
sticky
said that she did
traps.
that yesterday.
Yes, I mean,
Which is
that's great. It's you're being physical and they're watching you be physical. It's not just, I hear you and I'm going to ignore you when you walk away. And unfortunately for me, a lot of what I do is talking because I'm not dealing with having to go to someone's unit to physically do things. Although light bulbs are the bane of my existence. But,
Yeah, you have an indoor facility, so you traded bugs for light bulbs.
Yes, you did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And once again, a lot of the situations where I am unable to meet the tenant's expectation is they come and they want me to replace the light bulb in their unit. And I'm like, I can do that if you have a path for me to take an 8-foot ladder in that I can climb up and reach the light bulb, but I can't climb over your things.
Yeah. No, that's
And
very
I'm
fair.
sorry that it's dark in there, but I can't climb over your things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lee, what's your best de-escalation strategy? Do you have I mean, I know, I think you're going to say active listening, but give us a little more. Like this is Nicole asked this question at the top of the show today. I want to make sure I ask you, Nicole, you've been so active in the comment section too. But yeah, so like, what's your go-to de-escalation strategy when you have a tenant that's a little unruly?
Let's sit down.
That's cool.
I mean, once again, I'm mostly talking, but it's a lot harder to be worked up and mad. And I mean, maybe not mad, but it's a lot harder to be worked up when you're sitting down. And
you're less likely to get kicked in the face if they're sitting down.
Much less. But yes, you want to listen to them. You want to repeat back what they say, what they're saying to you. You want to do these things that show that I understand what you're saying. Sometimes I can even sympathize with what they're saying. No, listen, I understand, but this is something that's out of my control. I can't, I can't fix this particular problem for you. Thankfully, I really don't have a whole lot of that. I really don't. And even when it's escalated to the point of we're going to have an auction, um, most of the time when we get to that point, the client's gone AWOL, and I wish I could hear from them,
Yeah.
They've cut their
But,
losses.
um, you know, I really don't run into that very often. I ran into that much more in the hotel industry than I do in self-storage.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I,
I'm
I
sure.
did I did have one guy who was claiming that he had some insect damage on a rug and everything, and I was telling him, okay, well, you need to call your insurance company, you need to do this and that and the other, and they were very angry that I wasn't just going to write them a check for their rug, and I said, well, I have pest control come out every month. Um, and you move this from another storage facility in another state here, I I can't just write you a check. I mean, that might have been something that happened in Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but let's talk about it. Have your insurance company call me and we'll talk about it. Um, but thankfully, I don't have to deal with that very often.
Yeah, no, thank goodness. Well, right on, Lee. Let's jump to the question of the week. Y'all, I love this comment section today. This was very lively. I could tell y'all are passionate about taking care of your customers. That makes me very happy. And the questions were fantastic as well. So today's question of the week, Lee, what is your best customer service tip for these three people, for new managers, for experienced managers, and for the owners amongst us? So, new managers, experienced managers, and owners. What is your best customer service tip?
For new managers, know your product, want to help, and listen. You can meet their needs if you know your product, you really want to help them, and you listen to what it is they really need. For experienced managers, um, I'm going to go back to our example on the insects. Um, this is advice I should take. It's don't just sit there and talk about it. Let's get up and be physical and do something. I mean, I think the customer is really going to appreciate it if you say, "Take me and show me." You know, I
That's
I,
so
I
cool.
think that's
Yeah.
great advice, and um, I'd like to thank whoever it was that put that up there because that was not on my radar, and that's really good advice. And for owners, um, I'm going to say that your customer service culture, because I was the person that was supposed to train all the department managers and their staffs in the hotel on the customer service culture, and they gave it to me because as the revenue manager I was back behind the door looking at a computer screen because the top level management, the ownership didn't have buy-in. So if you're an owner, buy in. You are going to get, if you want great 5-star Google reviews, well, give great 5-star service.
Mm,
If,
Amen.
if you
that's
want,
awesome.
if you want these reviews to be word of mouth because your client, I heard somebody say last week that your clients don't get together and have a discussion about your rates. Let me tell you, your clients get together at high school football games and they talk about everything. Your rates sooner or later are going to come up. Um, but not just your rates, your customer service is going to come up. if I haven't had a lot of interactions with you because you put your stuff in storage and you've just kind of left it there and you're going to come back in a month and get it out, but the person you're talking to is in every day and they just love this place because we do this for them and that for them, and we're always so friendly and helpful and nice and whatever. Um, that translates into a great review for your other customer too. They're going to tell people, oh, yeah, I store over there and they are great. Um, Even though they haven't necessarily had that experience, someone they trust has had that experience. And so your your owners and operators have to buy in that you want to have this customer service culture, and you want the 5-star Google reviews, but you want 5-star reviews face to face, and uh, you want them to you want to recognize your employees that are giving that great customer service, because nothing's happening in a vacuum. If I'm doing a great job and nobody's telling me that I'm doing a great job, I may not know that it's a great job. And so,
I love that, man. That's such awesome advice. If you want 5-star service, you got. If you want 5-star reviews, you got to get 5-star service. That's exceptional advice, man. That's money, as someone said. Charity asked, she said she got to get more reviews. Jessica's tactic is she locks the door and doesn't let them leave until they write one. Ha! I love it. Phil, thank you for sharing that article on how to get reviews. Our own David Austin wrote that article last year. It's a really sharp one, and it breaks down step by step on how you can get hundreds of reviews just like Jessica. So check out that article. Phil, thank you for sharing that. Lee, what's the best way for the audience to reach out to you in case they want to ask you questions about how they can do better with customer service at their facility?
my email is lee@npstorage.com. And that's probably the best way. You can also give us a call on the office phone, which should be on our website, npstorage.com. If you try to call my personal phone, I'm not going to answer. It, it goes to a voicemail that says, I do not have your entry code. And if you know me personally, send me a text. So
That's awesome. I love that.
the office phone from the website, or lee@npstorage.com. Those are the best ways.
I love that. I love that. Well, Lee, thank you for coming out. Melissa, welcome back.
Yep, I'm back. Connection issues. It's all good.
It's all
And
good.
by the way, guys, I really appreciate you finding a photo of me that I don't have any gray in my hair. That's great.
We were providing great customer service, Lee.
I
went
don't
above
have to
and
wear
beyond.
glasses and don't have gray in my hair, so that's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
I want to
awesome.
I want to give another special shout out to our audience today, man. Y'all, the comment section, this has got to be one of the busiest comment sections
Yeah.
we've ever had. It was so much fun. Like Fadia said, lots of fantastic advice shared between all of the audience members. Y'all, thank you so much. That was really special for me to just kind of read through. But of course, this episode will be published on the Gabfocus Self Storage Podcast. I think Josh gets those up pretty quickly. It'll be
Yep.
available on the Resource Center in video format. Will also be available on YouTube. And of course, if you haven't already, join us on the Gabfocus Friends Facebook group. The next time you'll see Melissa and I will be hanging out and talking about the 2024 storage legal update. That's October 17th. Mark your calendars. It'll be the 2024 storage legal update. Should be a fun one. Everyone loves the legal episode. And I feel like that 2024 has had a lot of legal updates for our industry, more so than in years past. So this will be a fun and jam-packed full of knowledge. So be ready for that one. That's October 17th at 2 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to join us for Lobby Talk, we open the lobby doors at 1:30 Eastern. Melissa, always fun hanging out with you, my friend.
You as well. You as well. We'll see everybody in person soon.
We'll see y'all soon. Lee, thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Bye,
And we're
y'all.
out.